walk through it first before we dive into it.
Okay.
I usually go in with 2 hands, and you've got spray paint going in from both sides. Basically,
Yep.
I'm NBC Connecticut Chief Meteorologist Ryan Hanrahan. We've got a tornado warning that has just been issued for Litchfield County. Let's take a closer look at this storm. It's now just to the west of Sharon, and it's in New York State. It's in Dutchess County, New York now, and this storm has the capability of producing strong winds, large hail, and there's the potential for a tornado here as well. So that's why we're watching the storm. Let me show you the velocity mode now so I can show you where the rotation is. And give me 1 second here. I'm just trying to pull this up for myself. All right, so there's the rotation. I'll circle it for you. It's right over Dutchess County, New York, near the town of Pine Plains. So that's where we have the possible tornado, and it's moving off to the south and to the southeast at approximately 45 miles per hour, so it's moving fairly quickly. So let's time it out for you as it moves off to the south and to the southeast. This is far western Connecticut, right in Litchfield County. There's the approximate track to the southeast at 45 miles per hour. So it's going to take the storm into Sharon shortly after 3 o'clock, around 3:04, and then head toward Kent at 3:13. So we're looking at right along Route 7, right along the Housatonic River in far western Connecticut. This storm is the one that we're watching right now. It does show at least a little bit ago, it had a fairly impressive hook echo. It was spinning around pretty good, and you can see as we take a closer look now at live first alert Doppler radar, you've got a lot of very heavy rain. I've seen a lot of strong wind signatures with this storm and the potential for some hail as well as it moves off to the south and to the southeast. So this is the storm we're watching now. Again, we have a tornado warning in effect for Litchfield County. That tornado warning goes until, let me get the correct time here, that goes until 3:15 this afternoon. And we also got a report from moments ago from actually a friend of mine, John, who's a meteorologist who's actually storm chasing today, of a rotating wall cloud. That means he's looking at the storm and seeing the clouds of the storm spin around. There's a little lowering of the thunderstorm cloud. It's spinning around, and that's why you have that tornado warning in effect. So again, we'll time it out for you here as the storm moves off to the south and east, heading toward Kent and Warren and Sharon in the next 15 minutes or so. So we have this tornado warning in effect for Litchfield County. Now, what should you do if you are in the path of this storm? Well, once the storm heads closer, the best thing to do is to be in a basement or a small interior room. Stay away from windows. You don't want to be outside trying to see this thing coming in, because chances are by the time you see it, if a tornado happens, it's right on top of you. So stay indoors. Make sure the kids are inside. Last couple days of summer vacation, I know everyone's trying to get outside and enjoy it while you can, but stay indoors until the storm passes, and we're going to keep you covered here on NBC Connecticut as this storm approaches from the west. So again, this is what we're looking at here across the rest of Connecticut. In the Hartford area, we've got, right now, we've got a fair amount of rain coming down, but at least at the time being, the rain is not doing a whole lot. So we've got some rain for sure, but we're not talking about anything more serious than just some rain moving through. And that's going to, over the next couple hours, sink farther to the south. So it looks like the main severe weather threat here is going to set up from basically Torrington to just south of Hartford down through Fairfield County. So this includes the New Haven area. This includes Fairfield County as well, southern Litchfield County, and the far southern suburbs of Hartford. We're going to see this severe weather threat moving in. Now, why is that? Well, let's take a look at current, well, that's not what I was trying to show. Let's see if I can pull up current temperatures here. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. This is the current temperature chart across Connecticut. And notice that across most of Connecticut, it's still relatively warm. Temperatures are in the 80s. Give me 1 second, it's just loading up here. Temperatures are in the 80s, so it's still pretty warm from Hartford on south. But up along the Massachusetts border, temperatures have dropped rapidly. In fact, we've got temperatures now in the mid-60s up toward Windsor Locks. So we've got a front that's moving to the south, and as this front moves to the south, it's going to effectively shut down the severe weather threat across the Massachusetts border, and we'll see that severe weather threat coming to the south down through the southern suburbs of Hartford and especially down toward the New Haven area. So again, here's the storm we're watching. I'll put it into motion for you, show you the last hour here. The worst of the weather heading into Litchfield County now, and we've got a ways to go before we can get this storm out of here. It looks like the storm is going to take its time moving across Connecticut, head eventually down into the Waterbury area, and then from there continue down to the south, down toward the New Haven area, the Naugatuck Valley as well. So if we just take this storm, I mean, the storm is going to cycle from time to time. It's going to weaken and strengthen, and based on its current trajectory, this is where it's heading. So here's sort of a heads up for you as the storm moves on through. We're looking at the storm arriving in the New Haven area close to 4 o'clock. The storm will be in the Brantford area around 4:06, Monroe at 3:46, Naugatuck at 3:41, Bethlehem 3:23, New Milford at 3:19. So that's the trajectory of the storm moving from northwest to southeast across Connecticut. And the main threats here today going to be strong gusty winds, hail, and potentially a tornado, and that's why we have that tornado warning in effect. So let's take a closer look here at this line of thunderstorms. What you see through portions of northern Connecticut now and the northeast corner, this is not severe. We've got some rain. We've got a bit of gusty wind, but it's not severe weather. It's the cluster of storms that exist through portions of northwestern Connecticut, back through the Catskills and the Hudson Valley. That's the severe weather threat. Those are the storms that are the most powerful, producing the gusty winds. And the reason why is the atmosphere is much more unstable through portions of southeastern New York and western Connecticut. And that's why we have that tornado warning in effect. So tornado warning goes until 3:15 this afternoon. Let's take a closer look at the storms. We'll zoom things in a little bit more for you. I want to give you a closer idea. In terms of the tornado potential, just give me 1 second here. I'm just trying to look at some of our other radar products here. So let's go to velocity here so I can take a closer look. So if we take a look at what Doppler radar is picking up here, what I don't see a big rotational signature now. That seems to have weakened at least a little bit, but Doppler radar is picking up some strong winds up to about 60 miles per hour through New York State. These are approximately 5 to 10 minutes from moving into Litchfield County, but these are the kinds of winds that are strong enough to take down trees and take down power lines, and there's the potential for a tornado to develop as well. No confirmed sightings of a tornado yet. Radar's not confirming a tornado either, just simply giving us the potential. And it does look like even back to the west, this is in the Hudson River Valley now, there's another little area of rotation that's forming as well. So we'll have to watch that as that moves across western Connecticut. Those are going to be the areas that we'll be concerned with for that tornado development. So let's go across the rest of the state now, because at least the strongest wind threat still is back through portions of New York State. It's not quite in Connecticut yet. In the Hartford area, we've got some rain coming down now. It's raining at a decent clip up toward Windsor and Windsor Locks, pouring right now at the airport. Granby and Simsbury, it's turning into a chilly afternoon in the Simsbury area. It's cold with a wind coming down from the north on the backside of this storm, raining in Tolland, raining in Hampton, raining in Killingly. The severe weather threat is pretty much over, basically from Hartford on north and to the east. The severe weather threat is greatest in western Connecticut. And that area of rotation that I just showed you a moment ago in the Hudson River Valley, they just issued a new tornado warning for that storm. So we've got 2 tornado warnings to our west, including this one that just nicks Kent and Sharon over toward the Lime Rock area. And of course, it was right before Isaias, the Sunday before, where we had the tornado that touched down in Sharon. So hopefully this one doesn't, and this one is just some rotation in the clouds. And right now, the more I look at this, the more I just see a strong wind signature. So this brighter red shading or this pink shading you see, that's where you've got an area of some very strong winds showing up on Doppler radar. And that's what's going to be moving shortly into Litchfield County. Now, on the leading edge of that, sometimes you can get some rotation and you can get a tornado to spin up. But right now, what was a little bit ago a much stronger rotational signature has diminished. And let me go back here and I can show you what I mean by that. So if we look back, this is approximately 20 minutes ago. There was a much stronger rotational signature here, but that has actually weakened some. And if I go to now, you can see not quite as much in terms of rotation, but there's still a threat here as the storm heads into northwestern Connecticut for a tornado to develop. And I'm looking at some very strong wind speeds getting detected here. Let's take a closer look. Yeah, winds close to 70 miles per hour just off the ground. And so this is going to be moving into Sharon shortly. So if you're in Sharon, if you're in Kent, the best thing to do, remain indoors, stay away from windows. Let's take a look at those tornado safety precautions one more time for you. So you know the best thing to do. If you are in the path of this storm, again, remain indoors. Sharon, Kent, most at risk right now, but eventually this whole area is going to be moving to the south and east. So the Waterbury area, the Naugatuck Valley, southern Litchfield County, including New Milford, and then down toward the New Haven area, that's where we're looking at this storm moving. So I'm not concerned in the Hartford area right now. In fact, I think the severe weather threat is just about coming to an end in the Hartford area. But areas just to the south and west of there, let's say from Southington and Berlin down through Waterbury. That's where we're going to have to watch for this severe weather as it moves in from the west. Just taking a look to see if we have anything from the National Weather Service here. Let's see. No updates, no storm reports coming in just yet. Let's take a look, actually, if we can. Let's go outside, take a look live at Simsbury now, and show you what's going on. Simsbury is now on the colder side of the boundary. So in the Simsbury area at the moment, if we can go to that live picture, you can see the rain's coming down. It's turning into a chilly afternoon in Simsbury on the northern side of that front. But it's the southern part of the front. That's where we have the potential for tornadoes. And let's go back to live first alert Doppler radar because things are getting a little more interesting with the storm. I mentioned a bit ago that we didn't see much of a rotational signature. That has changed. And now just west of Sharon in New York State, there is most certainly a rotational signature here that's very, very close to the Connecticut border. So if you're in the path of this, you need to, in Sharon or in Kent, you got to be indoors. You have to stay away from windows. We saw what happened with the last storm that moved through that produced a tornado toward Lime Rock. There were some areas that were hit very hard. Hundreds of trees snapped and uprooted as the storm moved in. And so this, again, has the potential to produce a tornado here. I'm going to time it out for you. Again, the storm motion is to the south and to the southeast, so it's going to put it right into Sharon shortly. You've got about a minute in Sharon before the storm moves in, and if it continues, it'll head toward Warren and New Preston and Lake Warramog. So there's the timing for you. We're looking at about 15 minutes from getting into Warren, and the storm's going to be into the Sharon area shortly. So Doppler radar picking up this rotational signature in Dutchess County, New York. This is just a mile away from the Connecticut border now, and it's heading toward us. It's heading into the Connecticut area, and let's take a look at the kind of wind that we're sampling here. Doppler radar is picking up some good wind. Now winds of 74 miles per hour. That's hurricane strength just to the west of Sharon and to the west of Route 41. But it's moving in that direction. It's moving in. So Litchfield County, you're under a tornado warning. That tornado warning continues until 3:15 this afternoon. So we've got another 15 minutes for the tornado warning here in Litchfield County. Across the rest of the state, let's take a closer look elsewhere and show you what's going on. There's the storm that we're concerned about in Litchfield County, but elsewhere we've got a lot of rain. It's coming down pretty good in the Hartford area through northeastern Connecticut, but now the threat has sort of been restricted to northwestern Connecticut, and then eventually heading down into the Waterbury area. So if you watch this whole cluster, it's moving to the south and to the southeast. So New Haven, eventually, you're going to get into the action as well around 4 o'clock. And we have a tornado watch in effect for Litchfield County, tornado warning as well. And I think we'll see that watch extended into southwestern Connecticut shortly ahead of these storms that are moving in. So let's go back to the velocity mode because this is where we can detect the rotation and detect the possible tornado. And there it is. It's just about to head into Sharon. I don't see, well, I see a pretty good hail signature, but I'm looking, I don't see, at least right now, I don't see any indications of lofted tornado debris, which is good. We don't want that. We want this rotation to stay in the clouds. The clouds are spinning around real fast. So you've got this strongly rotating thunderstorm. We call that a supercell thunderstorm. The thunderstorm that spins around is a supercell storm. That's what we have. That's what Live First Alert Doppler radar is showing us. There is the rotation. It's crossing into Connecticut right now, and we'll go street level for you in a minute. I'm also noticing just to the west of here, looking at some of my other radar products, a very hellacious hail signature developing across portions of New York State and the Hudson River Valley. So it's not just the tornado threat here. We're also going to be dealing with soon the potential for some large hail as well. So let's take a closer look at some of the areas most at risk. And if you're in Sharon, on Nibble Hill Road, Westwoods Road 2, Westwoods Road 1, Route 4 in Sharon. This is coming in right from New York State, and it's going to head to the south. Route 7 near the Cornwall Bridge, you're going to be next, and then heading toward Deldorf Road, Macedonia Brook Road, Route 341. That's Kent and the Housatonic River here. Let's see if we have any more. It's fairly sparsely populated in this area. North Kent Road, Skiff Mountain Road. I've been hiking up around there before. Northrop Road, Morey Road. These are the areas that are most at risk for this storm as it moves on in. And there is a very strong wind signature here and the potential for some hail as well moving into far northwestern Connecticut. This is where we're looking at the potential for a possible tornado. The threat is going to be until, at least for right now, 3:15. That's how long that tornado warning goes into effect for, but we'll likely see some more warnings issued throughout the afternoon. So it's not going to be the whole state. It's actually going to be just a portion of the state now that we're concerned about. And I can actually, I can pretty much draw right here for you who's at risk for severe weather. It's pretty much this area of Connecticut. North and east of there we're good. South and west of the Hartford area, especially Waterbury, the Naugatuck Valley, it has the potential to be a long afternoon as the storm moves in. Just got an update from the Weather Service here. Yep, the tornado warning continues. They're also warning now for golf ball-sized hail for the storm that's immediately behind it. So this is a real nasty cluster of thunderstorms moving through right now. And Sharon, you're getting the worst of it in Connecticut at the moment. I'll switch back over to velocity mode so you can see the rotational signature, and there's some really strong winds here as well. So it's not just the potential for the tornado, it's also the hail, and it's also the strong wind threat as well. So you've got both working in tandem. And let's take a look at some of the winds we're sampling here. Winds of about 50 to 60 miles per hour. Earlier we were looking at closer to 70 miles per hour. So we've come down a little bit, and your rotational signature now is right here over Connecticut, right over Sharon, just to the south of the center of Sharon. So the Village Green, the beautiful green in Sharon, we're just to the south of there. This is crossing over from Median, New York. Now we're in the southern part of Sharon, just very close, the Westwoods portion of Sharon, and this is going to be moving into Kent shortly. So it's Sharon and Kent right now, the area of concern here. Not to mention the fact, not just the tornado threat, but there is some hail and some strong winds as well. So that's the area we're watching through Litchfield County. And let's zoom things back out a little bit. Let me take a look at the wider view here so you can take a look at where they are and where the storms are going. So I'm going to put this into motion for you. I'll give you an hour-long loop here, and you can see what you've got from Hartford to Enfield to Willimantic, just some rain, some rumbles of thunder. We can handle that. It's where you've got the instability that's really bubbling up and building through southwestern Connecticut. That's where things are worse, and that's where you've got the potential for the tornadoes to develop. So right now, it's the western part of the state where we have the tornado warnings in effect. Tornado warning now for Litchfield County until 3:15. We've got another 10 minutes for that warning, and we'll see what happens in the next few minutes. We'll see if the storm weakens or strengthens. I think it will probably be sort of up and down through the afternoon. We'll see some signs of weakening, then it strengthens, then it weakens, then it strengthens. All these storms tend to go through cycles where they sort of pulse up for a minute, and then they weaken a bit, then they pulse right back up. And so that's what we're going to see. We've seen that in most of our severe weather events here in Connecticut before. It's very rare you get one storm that produces a whole swath of damage. It tends to be sort of patches of it across Connecticut. So we're watching this storm in Sharon is obviously the one that we're most concerned about. We've got a tornado warning for Litchfield County. Let's zoom back in here. And let me give you some severe weather safety tips as well shortly. There's the area of rotation. We're looking at just in the southern part of Sharon, right near the Kent border, along Route 41 and along Route 7, the Westwoods part of Sharon. That's where the storm is now, and it's moving off to the south and to the southeast at about 45 miles per hour. So these storms are moving fairly quickly. If you're in the path of the storm, the best thing you can do if you are outside, or if you know someone who's outside, obviously if you're watching us, you're inside, but if you know someone outside, if the kids are outside playing, even let's extend this farther south toward the Waterbury area and toward New Milford. You've got some nasty weather moving in about a half an hour or so. So if the tornado threat increases and you're under a tornado warning, right now that warning is for Sharon and Kent. You want to be in a basement or a small interior room, stay away from windows, cover your head with a sturdy object, and turn the volume up too. We'll let you know when the storm threat is over, so you don't want to be spending all night in the basement. If you turn the volume up, you'll be able to hear us, and we'll let you know when the storm threat's over. And also, if you haven't done it yet, if you're in the path of these storms, so say you're in New Milford right now and you're waiting for the storms to come in, you're connected to Wi-Fi, you still have power, download the NBC Connecticut app and you can stream our coverage so you can take it wherever you need to go. If you have to go to a basement, we'll be here for you and we'll get you through the storm as it moves on through. All right, let's take a closer look now. Just looking, I want to go back into Sharon because I'm getting some real good wind signatures here popping up again, which is not great. And we'll zoom in a little bit closer. So I'm looking at winds here that have increased a bit right on the Kent border. Talking about wind speeds that may be approaching the 70-mile-per-hour mark. So we're looking at some very strong winds as the storm moves toward Kent. So we're moving into Kent right along Route 7, and we'll show you where the rotation is. If there's a tornado, this is where it is. I'll zoom in a little bit more. to give you a little more context so you can see exactly where we're looking at. There's your possible tornado. So if you're along the Housatonic River in Kent, along the Appalachian Road, Keeler Road, Macedonia Brook Road, and then eventually we're going to head toward Cobble Road and Route 341 from Kent into Warren. That's where the worst of this storm is right now. There is some rotation. I can put the shear marker on here for you, and you can see. There we go. There's the area that the green area is indicating where you've got that rotation, where you've got the spin in the clouds, and that's where we have what we call a supercell thunderstorm. And here's a closer look now at that storm. Still looks like the potential for a little bit of hail, and just actually the storm to the west it looks like it's producing some very, very large hail. So let's go to the hail tracker here, and we can see what kind of hail we're looking at. Right now we're looking at, let's see, it looks like the tornado warning is extended now for Litchfield County until 4 o'clock. So let's take a closer look here. I'm going to zoom back out. We've got a tornado warning now for most of Litchfield County. Yeah, this is going to bring us all the way down toward Woodbury and Oakville and Watertown. This tornado warning now goes until 4 o'clock for the storm as it moves in. Now, we also have the potential for some hail as well, and the green shading here is where you've got some decent-sized hail. So let's zoom in a little bit closer, and we'll take a look at the hail signature. You're talking about hail that's a little about dime-sized through Litchfield County. Farther to the west in New York State, you're talking about quarter-sized hail or even a little larger. And actually, some of the other radar products I'm looking at indicates that we're soon going to have much larger hail. We could be looking at hail to the size of golf balls or larger developing back here. And so that's going to be trying to move toward Connecticut in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. So hail threat and a tornado threat now in Litchfield County. We've got a tornado warning until 4 o'clock, and actually here in West Hartford, the front has just moved through. The wind is whipping here now. I can hear it. You're probably going to hear one of the doors slam shut in a moment. That's what that is if you hear it. And so that tells me a couple things. One, it means that the cold front is moving through. So the front basically is doing something like that. So it's out ahead of the front, so it's colder, and it's rainy, and it's stable north of the front. South of the front is where you still have the instability, and that's why you have the tornado threat that has developed. And it's not just tornadoes, it's also strong straight-line winds and the potential for some large hail as well. And I'm going to be watching that hail product, too, because I do think we have the potential for a much larger hail threat to develop over the next few minutes or so. So let's go back to the storm. I want to take a look at the velocity here, give you an idea, and we'll give you an updated storm track as well, since this warning now extends through all of Litchfield County for the most part. There's our rotation. We've got some very strong winds that are showing up, winds of close to 80 miles per hour. That is enough to take down a whole stand of trees. That's some big-time wind. Our rotational signature is right here, about to cross Route 7. So we're now crossing into Kent. So we're in North Kent along Route 7. There's a hail threat here, hail potentially to the size of quarters, and this is moving to the south and east right now at approximately 45 miles per hour. So this is going to put it into Warren shortly, and then eventually New Preston, and if it continues, it's going to head toward the Watertown area. Let me take a closer look here. So there's our possible tornado right now. And that's the track bed. I'm going to extend this into Waterbury, too, just so you have an idea of where it's going. New Preston, 320. Bantam, 323. Morris, 327. Bethlehem, 329. This afternoon, Watertown, 336. Middlebury, 340. Waterbury at 341. So that's the track of the storm. The storm, so far, I have not seen any confirmed reports of a tornado, thank goodness. But we'll be watching it and to see if that changes as the storm moves to the south and east. But we've got some very, very strong winds showing up and the potential for the tornado about to cross into Warren. So Warren, you're next. We're in Kent now. We're heading into Warren. And then once we get past Warren, we're going to be heading toward New Preston and Marbledale and Washington right along Lake Warramog. So that's going to be next on the ETA of this storm as it moves to the south and east. So again, we've got a potential for some hail. If I take a look at the hail tracker, the hail potential seems to have increased just a little bit. Hail about dime-sized here, but the hail back to the west now increasing to about golf ball sized. A golf ball is about 1 3/4 inch in diameter. So we're getting close to that. So that's next. And if you haven't yet, if you're in Kent or Warren or Washington, you need to be in a safe spot. You got to stay indoors. But if you're a little farther away, say you're in New Milford now, let's say, Bethlehem down through Roxbury or Bridgewater, I'd think about moving my car in the garage if it's not there already. You got a couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes, do it now because we've got some big time hail off to the west, and this is one of those days that can produce some large hail, and so large hail in your car will not end well. It's a bad combination. So tornado warnings in effect with this cluster of thunderstorms. We've got 3 tornado warnings now. One is in Connecticut, and one is the other one is farther to the west in New York State, but it's the one that we've got moving into Warren now that we're most concerned with. We've got some very, very strong winds getting detected by live first alert Doppler radar. Let me take a closer look here to see what kinds of winds we're looking at here. Yeah, winds close to 80 miles per hour. So that is some very strong wind. About to move down Route 341 from Warren into Kent. Such a beautiful drive there. One of the most beautiful in the state. Heading toward Kent Hollow Road, Upper Kent Hollow Road, Route 45. This is Lake Warramog here, so Tinker Hill Road, Lake Warramog Road, Curtis Road, then Route 45. You got to be in a safe spot here. You've got some real nasty weather moving in shortly. And this is going to be coming in to your town. So Washington, you're next as this moves in. Looks like we have a new tornado watch. Let's take a look at this. Give me 1 second. I got to find it here. I'm going to zoom things out. Tornado watch has now been extended to all of southern Connecticut and Hartford County. So I was mentioning how northeastern Connecticut's in the clear. So it's really from, I'll draw the line again for you. It's basically south of this line where we have the potential for tornadoes. That's why we have a tornado watch that's been issued. To the north of there, it's stable. The atmosphere is okay. The atmosphere is saying, you know, you're not going to produce a tornado here. And in fact, I'm wearing shorts. Not wearing, but I can feel the cold coming in. It was in the mid-80s earlier. I don't have central air, so I'm always wearing shorts with a dress shirt. But it was warm. It was very humid. It was a little muggy. But the wind has come in from the north here in the Hartford area, and temperatures have dropped quite a bit. And we're dropping into the 70s and into the 60s north of this boundary. So that's one of the reasons why the weather has the capability of being so volatile today. The reason is we've got such a sharp gradient between chilly air to the north. It's in the 50s now up toward Worcester, Mass., and it's near 90 down toward New York City. So this time of year, when you're talking about that kind of temperature difference, something's got to give, and it's this. It's this cluster of tornado-warned thunderstorms moving on through. Let's zoom back in. Let's take a closer look here. I'm going to do a couple things. We're going to look at the hail threat here, and we're going to look at the wind threat, because both are issues that we're going to have to contend with. So the hail threat is increasing in Connecticut. The hail threat is most certainly going up as the storm heads into Warren. If this one holds together, Morris, Bethlehem, and Washington, hail is going to be a factor as well as that possible tornado. Let's take a look at the velocity image here. I'll zoom in for you. So at least right now, the tornado threat, I'd say, is marginal. It's not huge, but there is some threat. But once you start talking about winds of around 80 miles per hour, and I remember on May 15th, 2018, talking about this a lot, it doesn't really matter which way the winds are blowing. Are they blowing in a rotational pattern, or are they just blowing in one direction? Winds of 80 miles per hour will knock down the trees around your house. It doesn't really matter which direction they're coming from. And so you need to prepare, you need to be indoors, you need to stay away from windows until these storms pass, because they are dangerous thunderstorms when you're talking about winds of that threshold. So Warren and Washington, this is where we're most concerned about the storm. So basically along 45 from New Preston up through Warren, along Lake Warramog, that's where we've got that potential tornado moving through. And also we have some large hail that's very close to moving into Bantam, near Bantam Lake. Certainly looks like a developing hail signature, and this is going to be moving into the Waterbury area shortly. So Waterbury, I want to give you a heads up here. Here's your first alert. You got to be ready for some big hail and the potential for a tornado as well as the storm moves to the south and to the east. And we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued by the Weather Service for all of the New Haven area. Basically, they're getting out ahead of this thing as fast as they can. They see how nasty these storms are. They're giving people a heads up. Just like I was doing for you in Waterbury, you got to take these storms seriously because they're big ones. So I'm going to time it out for you. The worst of this is on the Warren-Washington line. right near Lake Warramog. It's moving to the south and east. Morris, Bethlehem, Watertown, Middlebury, and Waterbury over the next 20 to 30 minutes. That's where the storm is moving. A couple threats here with the storm. One is the tornado. Obviously, the tornado is threat number one. But once you go down the list, you've got the potential for some large hail. We could start approaching hail silver dollar, maybe even golf ball sized over the next 10-15 minutes if the storm continues to strengthen. So that's a problem. And then you've got the damaging wind threat as well with the storm as it moves on through. So again, Warren, New Preston, Washington, the worst of the storm is moving in right now, and this is going to be heading into the Waterbury area shortly. Let me take a closer look if I can. See what's going on here. All right, so let's zoom in at the velocity one more time for you. I'm getting a lot of really strong velocity numbers. And so this is basically Doppler radar. What Doppler radar allows us to do is it allows us to look at the wind speed and the direction in a storm. And that's important because you want to know which way the wind is blowing. You want to know how strong it is. And that allows us to see rotation, but also can alert us to whether or not we have damaging winds. And I'm looking at a lot of winds here that are up to 60, 70, occasionally I get a pixel that's close to 80 miles per hour. That's some good wind. That's some strong wind. That is enough to certainly cause some trees to come down, certainly cause some power outages. And, you know, this is a very wooded part of the state. There are a lot of trees here. And so you got to be in a safe spot before these storms pass, because the last thing you want to be dealing with is trees coming down around your house and have you near the trees, near a window looking outside. That's how you can get injured. So treat these storms with respect. They're big ones. We've got that hail potential as well. Hail potential is increasing here as the storm moves into Litchfield. It looks like it's going to be very close to Bantam and heading into Morris. So Bantam Lake especially, your hail threat, well, dime to maybe quarter-sized hail here, but it has the potential to increase over the next 10 minutes or so. It does look like a decent-sized hail signature through Litchfield County. So Morris and Bethlehem, you're next. If there was a tornado, let's take a look at where that would be. Your hail threat is always going to be sort of displaced from the tornado threat. So a lot of people, if we go back to 1989, a lot of people in Hamden and North Branford and Wallingford remember the big-time hail that either came before the tornado or was sort of displaced. And so you go through the hail first, and then you've got that tornado risk. And so that the strongest wind signature and the potential for the tornado is now moving right into New Preston. So right here, it's along 202, heading out of Bantam, heading into New Preston right now. That's where you've got the potential for some very strong winds and the potential for a tornado as well. The tornado threat does not appear as significant as it did a bit ago. I would say it has weakened at least a little bit, but the storm as a whole has strengthened. So what we may be trading off for a tornado threat, we may be increasing just a more widespread damaging wind threat, a more widespread hail threat as well. And you can see the potential for the hail. You can see it's a little displaced from where that tornado was. Your hail threat is increasing now from Warren over into Bantam. Looks like the hail core may just, I don't know, I think it's probably going to go right over Bantam into Morris and then head to the south from there. So let's go back to live first alert Doppler radar. I'm going to widen things out, give you a closer look at where this thing is going. So the severe weather threat basically extends from, I'll draw the line for you again, Hartford on south, Hartford south and west. This does include New Haven. New Haven and the Naugatuck Valley, you are at risk for these thunderstorms, and these are storms that will last right down to the shoreline. That doesn't happen often, but this is what we call a northwest flow event. The wind through most of the atmosphere is coming right down from the northwest, so it should push these storms right onto the sound. And so the severe weather threat is certainly elevated from Milford out through Brantford and Guilford, downtown New Haven, and then maybe even out toward Old Saybrook and New London. We'll see. It's going to be a race between the front coming to the south and the storm, so we'll see if we're able to, how they time out. But there certainly is the potential for severe weather even right down to the coast. Meteorologist Caitlin McGrath is standing by as well. Caitlin's been keeping an eye on things from her location. And Caitlin, let's know, what are you looking at right now? What are you seeing from your perspective?
Hey there, Ryan. I've been keeping a close eye on our chat with the National Weather Service to keep an eye on any storm reports. Also keeping a very close eye on Twitter, where we often hear from our viewers at home and what they're seeing. We haven't seen any major reports of any significant wind damage. A lot of reports of that heavy rain, thunder, and lightning being associated with these storms, but no major damage quite yet. That is the good news. That being said, if you are within that tornado warning, you need to be in shelter. You should not be outside looking for the damage. So if you're in Litchfield County, the time to be in that safe place, like Ryan was talking about, is now. You can look for the damage once the storm has passed. In addition to the tornado warnings, of course, we do have the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect now for portions of Fairfield, New Haven, Middlesex, and now Hartford County. That continues until 4:15. So right now, live first alert Doppler on a wide perspective now showing you what's going on across the state. But we do want to zoom in a little bit closer to where we are seeing the worst of the weather. Again, continuing to move through portions of Litchfield County where that tornado warning is in effect. As Ryan mentioned, we're not seeing any strong signals for rotation right now. That is great news, but some wind damage does look likely. So let me switch over here to our velocity and keep an eye on that. Yeah, it looks like maybe some weak rotation to the south of Warren. We're also watching that storm just about to move into portions of western Connecticut, just to the west of Warren. That looks like it is producing some pretty significant hail. I'm going to take a look at some of our other radar imagery. A little bit of rotation associated with that storm as well. That's why it's under the tornado warning. So again, we're watching out for the potential for that wind damage. That tornado warning may get extended to include portions of southern Litchfield County. We'll keep an eye on that. So again, if you're in New Milford, be aware that that warning may get extended. But regardless, we are seeing that significant hail signature within that storm. We'll send you back over here to our live first alert Doppler and time out these storms for you. We'll go each storm first. So we'll talk about the one that is currently under the severe thunderstorm, or I'm sorry, the tornado warning for portions of Litchfield County. These storms are booking it pretty quickly to the south and east, around 45 miles per hour. We'll time it out here, and you can see that that storm looking to move into portions of Terryville pretty shortly here, just after 3:30, moving towards Watertown, closer to 3:40. Southington, if this storm holds together, that will be around 3:50, closer to 4 p.m. for Middletown. So let's clear out that track and talk about the storm that's not in Connecticut yet, just minutes away, but also producing some significant wind and some really large hail is what it looks like here on radar. So this is going to overlap some of the towns that are already seeing the bad weather from that storm just in front of it. But this one a little bit to the south. So we'll take it past Waterbury, moving towards Kent any minute now. So again, if you're not in a sheltered place, you need to be so. In an interior room, a small interior room, the basement, turn up the TV, download the NBC Connecticut app if you still have power. While you still have power, you can stream us live there. This storm heading into New Preston shortly after 3:30. Bethlehem closer to 3:48. Watertown, you can expect the nasty weather right around 3:55. Waterbury just after 4 o'clock this afternoon. So let's give you a wider perspective here and talk about what else is going on in the state, because we do have the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect now. Thankfully, the bad weather not there quite yet. They are issued ahead of the arrival of these storms, but our greatest concern as we head throughout the afternoon, not only the potential for that rotation, which I'm keeping a close eye on that storm that's still in New York, but quickly heading towards portions of Connecticut. And it does look like we're seeing a decent rotation signature there, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. But it's also producing some significant hail. This radar estimating hail over 2 inches possible, so that's really damaging hail. We don't see that quite often here in Connecticut. So like Ryan mentioned earlier, if you're still ahead of the storm, if you're in southern Litchfield County, you do still have a few minutes to bring in any furniture that may be damaged or get your car under shelter, because hail of that size can do quite a number if it does make it to your town. And we'll time out these storms again all the way down into portions of New Haven and Middlesex, Fairfield County, because they are moving pretty quickly. Thankfully, no tornado warning in effect there quite yet. We'll keep an eye on the rotation. But again, right now, the greater concern looks to be for some damaging winds. So we'll take you all the way down through portions of New Haven and Middlesex County, heading towards Terryville just after 3:30, really any minute there in Terryville, closer to Waterbury, 3:45. Meriden, you can expect the weather to deteriorate pretty quickly as we head towards 4 o'clock as well. And then if this holds together, making its way down towards Chester around 4:24, Killingworth around 4:30. We'll send things back over to you, Ryan.
All right, thanks a lot, Kate. And we're really looking at an area of the state that is most at risk, that's getting sort of bisected. The state is sort of sliced in half by a front, and so north of the front, the severe weather threats come to an end. Hartford's down to 68 degrees. It's 63 in Windsor Lock, so it's cool. And we're not getting severe weather or tornadoes with those kinds of temperatures, but look at the temperature difference from Hartford to Bristol now. It's a 14-degree temperature difference there. It's up to 85 in New Haven. So where it's warmer, on the warm side of the front, that's where the severe weather threat remains. So it's basically from about Woolkit and Bristol on south through Milford and then down through Fairfield County. That's where we've got the severe weather threat, including the threat for tornadoes over the next few hours. So let's take a closer look at these storms. These storms, again, in Litchfield County, as you were mentioning, Caitlin, have the potential to produce quite a bit of hail. As I'm looking at the potential for tornado development, I think that has diminished quite a bit. I just don't see much rotation right now. I see a lot of strong wind. I see a lot of winds 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, but I don't see a lot of rotation. I don't see a lot of spin in the atmosphere now. There's a little bit down here toward Morris and Washington and Bethlehem. Maybe you could say there's a little weak rotation here, but it's nothing too urgent at the moment. I think the bigger threat is going to be more widespread strong winds coming from the north and northwest that could knock down trees and power lines. And you've also got the potential for some pretty big hail. So let's take a look at the hail tracker here. I'm going to zoom things back out and show you we've got the hail now that's about to move into Kent and Sharon is the most concerning at the moment. This is just about to cross the border into Kent, and radar's showing us, there's a good clap of thunder right there, radar showing us hail close to 2 inches in diameter. That's about the size of an egg. That's some big hail. That's hail that's big enough to dent your car and can cause some problems. So we are looking at not just that tornado threat, which I think has diminished a little bit, but it's also the potential for some more widespread wind damage and also the threat for some hail as well as these storms move south. Let's storm track these for you as they move on through. Again, at least for now, we still have a tornado warning in effect, but the tornado threat has come down some. The worst of the weather is about to head into the Waterbury area and head to the south. So if this were to continue on this trajectory and not weaken or change course, which can happen, you're looking at the storm heading into Waterbury shortly, about 5 minutes away from Waterbury. 339 in Woolkit, 343 in Naugatuck, Cheshire at 348, and then we'll continue into Hampton and Mount Carmel shortly before 4 o'clock, North Haven at 357, and then eventually Brantford and Guilford a little after 4 o'clock, and these storms may hold together down toward Long Island Sound. So let's take a zoom in a little bit closer here in Litchfield County before these storms head into the Waterbury area, and we'll zoom in a little bit more, and you can see there's that hail signature, quite significant over Kent. That's quite a bit of hail that's showing up right now, and I can actually look, see if I can switch this over here. I'm not sure if I can do it easily. Yeah, let me do this. So what I'm putting up right now is normally what we would look at to see the size of the shape of size and shape of a raindrop, and we call this differential reflectivity. And over Kent, where I see what looks like a small raindrop, it's actually showing me something that's spherical. And that is a really good signature and signal that we use to pick out the potential for large hail. And that's what we have right through the center of Kent right now. Hail tumbles as it falls, so the radar thinks it's spherical. So the radar actually looks at it and thinks it's like a drizzle drop, because drizzle droplets are spherical. And so that's one of the tools we use. That's what I'm looking at all the time back here on this other monitor to see what we've got. And there's a pretty good signature in Kent right now for some big-time hail moving on through. So that's certainly going to be a concern right over Kent, the potential for some larger hail right along Route 7. So that is going to be one issue here, and then we also have the potential for some strong winds. As I head back over to the velocity mode, there's a lot of wind here in this light blue, this sort of teal shade from Kent heading into New Milford shortly and over toward New Preston. That's a lot of wind that's getting picked up, winds 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. So probably the tornado threat is fairly low right now, but winds still could be 60, 70 miles per hour, strong enough to take down a lot of trees and a lot of power lines. So New Milford, Roxbury, Bridgewater, you got to be on the lookout for this, and you have to be in a safe spot as these storms move through, because you've got that hail potential, and you've also got the potential for some very strong winds as the storms move to the south. So we'll head to the Connecticut, the wide view here. You can see the clusters of thunderstorms. The worst of the weather is going to miss Hartford. Hartford gets thunder and lightning and some rain, but no severe weather. The severe threat is now moving into the Waterbury area, and it's going to go south from there. If we can, Jay, can we throw up the Waterbury camera? I'd love to be able to take a look outside in Waterbury, and eventually New Haven's going to look great as well. You can see the storm moving into the Waterbury area now. Clouds are obviously quite dark out ahead of that storm as it moves in, but at least for the time being, we're dry in Waterbury. So the storm is still a few miles to the north of Waterbury. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. Yeah, we've got a little bit of time before it moves in, but not by far. We'll go to live first alert Doppler radar. It's pouring up toward Watertown now, and Terryville and Bristol, and then you've got over toward Bethlehem some what was that rotational signature, and there, yeah, actually it is actually beginning to pick up a little bit here in Bethlehem. So let's take a closer look here. Let's show you where we've got this potential rotational signature. So there is some rotation here in Bethlehem and Woodbury. So right on the Bethlehem-Woodbury line, there is some rotation. The clouds are beginning to rotate here, and we have a tornado warning for Woodbury, Watertown, and Bethlehem. So you got to be in a safe spot. Besides the tornado potential, you also have the potential for some very strong winds, so a more widespread strong wind possibility here from Bethlehem into Woodbury. And if this continues, this is going to head into Middlebury shortly, over by Quasi, down Route 64, and continues, if it does continue, into the Naugatuck area as well. I'll time it out for you. There's that rotational signature moving to the south and east. Naugatuck at 348, Beacon Falls 350, Seymour at 354, and Bethany at 355. So that's where that's headed for you. Moving to the south and to the east, we've got a tornado warning for Litchfield County for the Northwest Hills until 4 o'clock, and we have a severe thunderstorm warning to the south of there for this cluster of thunderstorms as it moves in. But New Haven County, you're going to get rocked pretty good by these storms. I mean, these are some big-time storms moving on in. And it's not just the tornado potential, it's also hail and strong winds. And let's go back to the hail tracker. I showed you that signature over Kent that had me concerned just a bit ago. And Doppler radar is picking up now, or estimating, hail about 1.5 inches in diameter, so it's about the size of a silver dollar. That's some good-sized hail moving through Kent. Other parts of the country would sort of laugh if we're calling that big-sized hail, but it's big for us in Connecticut. It's pretty unusual to get hail much over quarter size. It happens once in a while, and that's what we're looking at right now, moving through northwestern Connecticut. And this part of the storm is going to head right into New Milford. So New Milford, watch out for some hail and some strong winds, and it's sort of a train of storms moving down through the Hudson Valley and into Litchfield County and heading into Waterbury. Let's go back to that live camera in Waterbury, Jay, if we can. Let's zoom in a little bit more. I just want to watch these storms as they move in. So if we look outside in Waterbury, we're going to see that storm approaching shortly. And as we mentioned just a bit ago, there is a bit of a rotational signature heading into Woodbury, and let's take a closer look here. So if you're in Woodbury right now, yeah, you can see it's getting a little dark in Waterbury. If you're in Woodbury, you need to be in a safe spot. We're starting to see some rotation pick up here in the minor town portion of Woodbury, and this is going to head right into Middlebury and maybe clip Waterbury as well. We'll see if we continue the tornado warning, but there is a new rotational signature that has developed here in the last few minutes, moving to the south and east. So Middlebury, Waterbury, Naugatuck, you're next. There's the timing for you. Middlebury right about now, heading toward Naugatuck at 348 and Beacon Falls at 351. You need to be in a safe spot before the storm is on top of you. There is the potential for a tornado here, and that's why we have a tornado warning in effect for southern Litchfield County. And behind that, there is just a lot of wind getting picked up. Doppler radar again. The Doppler part of radar is what allows us to see the wind speed and direction. And I've got a lot of wind here showing up through New Milford and Washington and New Preston. And then right on the leading edge is where we got this little rotational signature, and that's right in Woodbury. There it is. That's your rotation. So that's where you've got a little spin going on And it looks like this. Let's zoom in a little bit close. Let me get you some roads here so you know exactly which portions of Woodbury are at risk. This is going to clip the far southern part, so we're basically just north of Quasi. It's going to clip the far western portion of Watertown, so we're right along Route 6 here from Woodbury into Watertown. There's your rotation where you've got the reds and the blues next to each other. Middle Road Turnpike, White Deer Rocks Road, Old Watertown Road, and then if we continue, we head actually into the western part of Waterbury near Breakneck Hill Road, Park Road Extension, and I-84 is going to be next here. Quassapog Road, looking at that rotation pretty much right over you, coming out of Woodbury, heading into Middlebury. Let's see if I can switch this over. Yeah, that's a good rotational signature, no doubt about that. Let's go back to that live picture if we can in Waterbury, and you can see. Yeah, I don't see any rotation there, but I do see it almost looks like a pretty good shelf cloud moving in. Not a huge surprise there. That's a nasty looking cloud though in the distance. That is for sure, and it's not a huge surprise given that we do have, at least on live first alert Doppler radar, I'm picking up some rotation here, and this is moving right into Middlebury and Waterbury. Our camera is right near the green, and so we're looking. Grant, if you could tell me which direction we're looking here. It's hard to get my bearings. We have a new camera location. The old one we had for a long time went away. So we're looking to the west-northwest. Okay, so we're looking right toward that storm as it's coming in. So we're looking toward the hills of Woodbury now. And you can see, obviously, things are getting quite dark. And Jay, not to direct from home, but you know me, why not? If we could double box that with Max C, I'd love to have radar and that live camera up simultaneously if we can. So we're looking to the west, and you can see that's the storm moving into Waterbury. If you're in Waterbury right now, you should be in a safe spot. These are some nasty storms moving through. These storms are capable, again, of producing hail, strong winds, and even a tornado. We have a tornado warning in effect for Litchfield County still, and right now the Weather Service has continued that tornado warning until 4 o'clock. With the storm as it moves in, and really all of Litchfield County right now just getting hit really hard by these storms with wind and hail and that possible tornado. Pretty impressive looking signature there. Oh yeah, so there I see Waterbury Hospital in the distance. All right, I know exactly where I'm looking now. So if you see the cars right in front of the hospital moving, that's Route 8 going north and south. And there you can see in the distance that storm coming in from the west and northwest, and the potential here again is for some very, very strong winds. Let's head back over to the radar. So you've got a couple things. One, that rotational signature that's heading into the Waterbury area, but also farther off to the north and west, we've got a lot of wind showing up moving through. This is going to be through Washington and Roxbury. So this blue shading here, that's where you've got some really good winds developing with the storm. So as the storm moves on through, it's producing a lot of wind and moving that wind right down to the surface. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a number of power outages developing here. Not as widespread as Isaias, of course, but enough to certainly cause some problems. And if I look at some of the areas in Litchfield County, there are some areas of some power outages that have developed in western Connecticut. So we'll see if that continues as these storms move to the south and to the southeast into the Waterbury area. And eventually, if they hold together, they're going to continue down toward New Haven. So these are the storms. Again, let's go to the hail tracker here. The hail tracker shows a pretty large area of at least small hail, small to medium-sized hail, dime-sized hail in the New Preston area and New Milford. A little bit of hail here in Watertown heading into Waterbury, and some strong winds showing up as well. We've got some very, very strong winds developing in the New Haven area or the New Haven County area as these storms move in. So let's take a closer look. I'm going to zoom things back out for you. Again, the leading edge of this is where you've got that potential for a tornado, and that's going to be the tornado warning so far has not been extended into New Haven County, so that's good. We'll see if that remains the case. But Prospect, 347, Cheshire, 353, Hamden around 4 o'clock, same in North Haven and New Haven, and then if we continue to the east of there, it's Brantford, Pine Orchard, Stony Creek, all in Brantford, and Guilford by 4:15. That's that cluster of storms moving in. Let's go back to Waterbury right now if we can with that live camera shot of the storms. So, oh yeah, you can see, wow, look at that. So that's the storm. It's moving in right now. So we're looking at 84s there on the left-hand side of your screen. There's the clock tower, and that's the storm moving in. That's the hail core and the rain core coming right into Waterbury at the moment. Again, I don't see on that picture any rotation, which is great. That's exactly what we don't want. But it does look like over the northern part of Waterbury, there is some hail coming down, probably to the size of dimes, maybe even a bit larger than that. So there's live first alert Doppler radar. And let's zoom in a little more for you. I'm going to show you exactly where we're looking. So this is Waterbury getting the worst of it, the worst of that storm as it comes in from the north and from the northwest. Got a report coming in from Warren, Connecticut on Route 331. Not a huge surprise here. Multiple trees and wires down in Warren from the storm as it moved into Litchfield County. And the strongest winds now are coming out of Roxbury and Woodbury heading into Southbury, and Waterbury is about to be enveloped there by the hail and the rain. You can see, obviously, a very impressive looking shot there as the storm moves into Waterbury with hail, some strong gusty winds as well possible as this moves in. That rotational signature I was looking at moments ago has weakened, so that tornado threat, again, at least for the time being, the tornado threat is coming to an end in Litchfield County and the New Haven County area, but strong winds, certainly a possibility with some hail. And let's time this out for you one more time. I'm going to time the leading edge, so the worst continues beyond this, but New Haven, you're going to be up next. It's not going to take too long for this to get from Waterbury into New Haven, so again, that's where we are now. There's the leading edge of it, heading into Hamden just before 4 o'clock, New Haven at 4:03, Brantford at 4:09, 4:10 or so, and then Guilford by 4:15, Madison at 4:20. Look at Waterbury now, just totally dark. And Grant, if we can zoom in onto the green, just so we can get a better sense of some of the wind now, because I can see the raindrops are sort of flying along there, no doubt, you've got some good winds that are coming in on the leading edge of the storm as it moves through. So we still have a tornado warning in effect for Litchfield County, but at least for the time being, the tornado threat has diminished. Well, that may not continue. That may change, but at least right now, that's some good news. But the wind is whipping in Waterbury as these storms move on in, and we've got a little windshield wiper on the camera. And these winds are strong enough, as we've seen. We got that report from Warren of trees and wires down. These storms are capable of taking down trees and power lines and such. And so Waterbury now getting into the worst of this storm. And this line of storms is going to continue right on down to the New Haven area. So we'll put I'll time the whole line for you here. So this whole line is gradually sneaking to the south and to the east. And there you go. So you're looking at, again, Naugatuck right about now getting into the worst. Oh, yeah, you can see the wind really whipping there. The rain's coming down in sheets in Waterbury. So we're looking down toward the green. Normally you can see the green and you can see out for some distance, but you can't see that now as the wind picks on up. And the Weather Service is warning winds of 70 miles per hour possible with this storm as it moves into New Haven County. And so that's the storm that's moving into to Waterbury now. And as it continues off to the south and east, we're looking at Bethany, North Haven, Wallingford next up, and this is going to continue into the New Haven area shortly. And if I take a closer look, let me go back if I can here. I want to switch over to velocity mode, so I'm going to take a look at the winds that are being detected by radar. And we're looking at some very powerful winds showing up on the Roxbury-Woodbury line, and these are heading right towards Southbury and Oxford. I know you don't want to hear that. There's a lot of PTSD from March 15th, 2018 in Southbury and Oxford from the tornado and the damaging wind event. But right here, I'm looking at winds of over 80 miles per hour. That is right on the the Woodbury-Roxbury line moving south. So you got to prepare for some very, very strong winds as these storms move in from the north. So at least at this particular strong wind threat from Woodbury to Southbury is going to be in Oxford shortly, and then continue to the south and to the east over towards Seymour and Oxford. And you can see Waterbury. It was that leading edge that had the most wind. Now that has passed, it's looking a little better, which is good news. We also have, well, let's take a look here. It looks like we may on the leading edge. You got to watch the leading edge. When the wind really starts to gust, you have to watch for a little spin up. and it looks like it right in the Union City part of, near the Naugatuck Waterbury line. Might try to get a little rotation there right on the leading edge. But some hail, certainly a possibility, along with some strong gusty winds. You got a flash of lightning there in Waterbury. So take your tornado safety